I am a 50-year-old woman who, after years in a possessive marriage, decided to accept my husband's surprising proposal to sleep with two men of African descent he chose. What I thought would be liberating became incredibly intense and exciting, especially when I realized that his tools were much bigger than my husband's. Every moment made me feel more alive and desired. But really, would this bring me closer to him? Or would it be the beginning of an adventure that would lead me to discover hidden pleasures that I had never seen it before? I imagined that they would test everything I thought I knew about love and desire. My husband and I were in a relationship that at first seemed perfect. We met at university, full of dreams and hopes. We were both young and carefree when we decided to get married. And during the first years, everything was wonderful. He was incredibly loving and attentive, always looking for ways to please me and make me happy. We spent hours talking, laughing, and enjoying life together. But as the years went by, I started to noticing subtle but disturbing changes in our relationship over time. His behavior began to change. He became more possessive and jealous and began to control me in a way he had never done before. At first, I thought it was simply a manifestation of his love and concern for me, but I soon realized that there was something deeper behind his behavior. He started demanding increasingly extreme and unpleasant things, justifying his demands as a way to protect me. A day later, in a particularly intense discussion, my husband made me a proposal that left me horrified. He looked me in the eyes with a mix of determination and desire, and told me bluntly that he wanted me to sleep with two men of African descent that he had chosen accordingly. This was necessary to maintain our relationship. It was solid. The proposal left me speechless. I felt trapped and scared, but deep down I knew I couldn't just refuse him. In the following days, my husband made sure I was prepared for the situation. He talked about men as if they were some kind of gift he was going to give me. He told me that they were very attractive and that he would be under my control throughout the experience. He used words that seemed kind and understanding, but his tone, he was imposing and authoritarian. He convinced me that this was necessary for our well-being and that it would free me from any hidden desires I might have for other men. As the days went by, my husband continued to insist on this experience. It was necessary, telling me it would be liberating, that I would get closer to him, and that in the end this would strengthen our relationship. He told me about how many couples explore their desires in unusual ways, making me feel that this was normal, and that I was being very reserved. By resisting, I began to feel more and more scared and confused. It was as if I was in a dream in which my husband's words were dragging me to a decision I never thought I would make. I finally agreed to his proposal, but on the condition that the men were really attractive and that they were trained to make me feel comfortable and safe. My husband accepted my condition with a smile that hid a hint of satisfaction. He began planning every detail of the experience. He told me about the men he had chosen, how special they would always make me feel. Whoever spoke convinced me more that this was what was best for both of us. A few days passed, and the moment of the night that my husband had prepared was approaching. It was an opportunity for me to explore my desires without fear, that I was able to discover aspects of myself that I didn't know. I saw him excited, as if this experience was not only for me, but also for him. There was something dark in his satisfaction, something that I hadn't yet achieved. My mind was in a whirlwind of emotions. There was a part of me that resisted this proposal, that told me it was something dangerous and disturbing, but there was also another part, a small spark of curiosity and desire that grew more and more, not just because of the presence of those two men which he had chosen, but for the possibility of breaking the chains of a marriage that had long stopped making me happy. The day came when my husband looked at me with a mixture of possession and expectation, giving me final instructions. But behind her authoritative tone, he glimpsed an emotion he had never seen before. He ordered me to go to Lex's house, in that room that used to be a cozy space in our house. Strange place, unknown territory that I was about to explore. When I entered the room, the silence was replaced by the sound of my racing heartbeat. My hands shook as I stared into empty space, as if it gave me one last chance to change my mind in any way I could. Had come too far to get away. I approached the bed, trying to calm myself, feeling the presence of my husband on the other side of the door watching from the shadows. The tension in the air was palpable, and although I hadn't seen it yet, those two men, I knew that my life was about to change forever. The minutes turned into an eternity. I thought about how my husband had insisted so much on this experience, convinced that it would be good for both of us. However, I began to questioning myself. Was he really doing this for me, or was it simply another form of control? A final test of his power over me? They were tall, imposing men, with dark hair, with a presence that filled me. The room, their gazes were intense, and I felt a chill run through my skin when I saw them there. I understood that there was no going back, that I was on the threshold of something completely unknown. Wait a second. We can't continue without you telling me that you signed up and have already tried it like this. You will help me keep up with these stories full of mischief, ready to get back to the action. Let's go. The best is yet to come. My husband had chosen these two ago, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of repulsion towards him because do this to me. But I knew I couldn't let my husband take care of it. Only then did I approach them and start taking off my clothes. In that last moment, my thoughts disappeared, and I gave myself completely over to the intensity of it. The first of them, a man with an imposing body, looked at me with a generous expression, caressed me with his big, strong hands, while my husband watched with a mocking smile. I felt like a woman on the street, but at the same time I noticed a certain attraction towards this man. Meanwhile, the other younger and more handsome man approached me and started kissing me passionately. I felt a growing desire. My husband watched us with satisfaction, taking advantage of the situation. Soon my husband ordered us to take off all our clothes completely, and music. I felt like I was making a kind of sacrifice, but I also noticed the effervescence growing inside me. The two men kissed me and fondled me in places my husband had never seen. Meanwhile, my husband approached me and started talking to me in a soft and seductive tone. He told me that this was for our well-being, that it would free us from our desires, and that it would make us happier. Disoriented, but at the same time I realized that something inside me began to crumble. The two men approached me. One stood behind me, and the other stood in front of me. I felt like I was a ham in a sandwich, but at the same time, my excitement was growing inside. From me, the man behind me began to insert his huge tool while the other kissed and caressed me as the night progressed. The initial tension dissolving into a mixture of desire and fascination. Those men chosen by my husband had self-confidence and an allure, ability to make me feel desired that was intoxicating. They treated me with a powerful delicacy and respect that was deeply in tune with my husband's controlling attitude. Every move was an invitation to give myself without reservation, and little by little I was submerged in a wave of unknown sensations that exceeded the limits of what I had previously thought possible. In a moment of lucidity, while one of them whispered sweet words to me and the other explored every corner of my body, I realized that I was experiencing freedom I had forgotten. It wasn't just a night of passion, it was a revelation, a window into a new version of myself. I felt a kind of inner power that I had never felt in my marriage. These men were far from being the simple participants in my husband's game, were a door to a life I wanted to explore myself. My husband watched us with a mocking smile, enjoying the situation, but at that moment his presence stopped bothering me. This experience, it was I who for the first time allowed myself to live it. This night stopped being an act of obedience and became my own awakening when dawn began to paint the sky in a soft bluish tone. They said goodbye with a courtesy that surprised me. I stood alone in line, wrapped in sheets that still contained their body heat. My husband then came in, and I saw a mix of surprise and jealousy in his eyes. I thought I would feel guilty or that I was sorry, but the truth is I didn't feel any of those emotions. On the contrary, I felt a clarity that gave me a renewing peace. To speak, I looked for the right words to understand what I was still experiencing, processing. He tried to apologize, perhaps justifying that this night had been for my own good that healed us. But what he didn't understand was that this night had actually been my salvation from him, decision that would change my life forever. I told him to my husband that I needed to get out of our relationship. The words flowed from my lips with a certainty I had never felt before. He was shocked, but inside me a wave of freedom enveloped me. I left my husband and began to explore my life with intensity, without limits, since then every encounter, every experience was another step towards the fulfillment of my desires. I explored my body in ways I never imagined. The nights of passion and exploration grew in number, and the idea of losing myself among strong and eager men no longer exists. It is not just a desire, but a vital need. In the weeks that followed, I rediscovered who I was and surrendered to them, allowing myself to live experiences without regrets or restrictions. Each meeting was a lesson, an adventure, an opportunity to explore desires and fantasies that I had suppressed for years. I met people from different cultures and backgrounds, each bringing something unique to my life. Today, my life has become a journey of self-discovery and pleasure, where each new experience awakens an insatiable thirst. At sometimes I even think about what my aunt did to her son-in-law, a story full of unexpected twists and lots of passion. If you want to know all the spicy details of their adventure, click on the video and let yourself be carried away. Temptation, and remember to subscribe to the channel and like the video for more stories like this.